be running some tests and making sure everything's set up correctly, and we'll get started at 9 o'clock sharp. So here, let me make sure everything's... Alright, yeah, I think we're good. Okay, I'm going to get started at 9 o'clock sharp, and I'm going to post some things on Reddit and Twitter and Facebook and all the platforms, and then we will get started. Okay. joining me. So today I decided to create this stream to demo my product, sort of what I've been working on, and to kind of introduce myself and the project to the community and see what kind of feedback we get from it. Try to draw some attention to it and kind of, just demonstrate some things. So my name is Ty Everett. I am the founder of Unite.cash, which is this project. So basically what I've been trying to build for the past couple of months is a way of creating and publishing content on top of Bitcoin Cash. And now why would we want to do something like that? The reason why is because when you publish something on top of a system which is primarily used for money, so transferring money, then you create a really strong connection between the creator of the content and how you can support them and send them money in whatever way you can. So I guess we can kind of jump into the demo a little bit, which basically what I have here is my implementation so far. You can, you have users, profiles, and then also you can do things like you have something similar to Reddit where you can show the replies if this is going to work for everybody. Yeah, that one was yeah, you can see that this GIF was actually posted as a reply under the video, and then and then we can view the replies on this one. The HTML is a bit it's not the best, but yeah, no, we can see all of these replies, and then this was actually posted as a reply to another piece of content. So I think it's important that we create a distributed sort of, oh crap, is my audio overlapping? Yes, it is. Okay. Oops, just had a technical issue with the stream. I think my audio was overlapping. As I was saying, I think it's important that we create a protocol or a model by which any content, for example, a video, a news article, a photo, or anything like that, even a song, can be sort of created as a child in a parent-child relationship to any other piece of content. So, for example, if somebody writes, oops, what did I do? Yeah, if somebody writes that, then they can sort of, anybody can create something in response to it, and different viewers and different sort of different viewers can be put on this protocol. For example, we have a video viewer which can view comments, which are replies to the video, but we also have a web browser, which, imagine if you did something like you make a new post and you say you want to link to something, and then you go, and then you give the TX ID to whatever you want to, basically what this will allow is you can make links to stuff, and when you create a protocol, or you create sort of a framework for displaying pages, you're essentially able to create everything that's possible on using HTTP, only in a decentralized way. Okay, so I should go into a lot of things a bit more clearly here. So all these videos and everything, they are on these photos and everything. These are all on IPFS. So I believe this is not copyrighted. That video is actually being posted on IPFS, and then the hash is put into the blockchain, the BCH blockchain, and the only central servers here are Bitcoin Cash, block explorers, and also IPFS nodes that relay IPFS content. and this is just for publication. But essentially what this means is that we don't need like Memo.cash and all the current implementations of any distributed protocols like this. They use central like web servers, or they have specialized content indexing, which it's okay because there's only so many op return transactions which implement their protocol, so they can sort of filter them out and serve them up on a static web page or whatever. But what I've created is a way to use existing block explorers as these endpoints to completely get rid of the need for any central third party whatsoever. So like if you would have to take down all of the block explorers that I use and all of the IPFS endpoints that I use in order to make this go away. Whereas with, obviously, we'd still need to distribute the client, so you'd have to take out, I guess GitHub or something like that. But you'd have to take out, all the places that distribute binary, the downloads and the source code and everything like that as well. So basically, what this is I'm utilizing, and of course, all this HTML is absolutely, that should not stretch out like that. But that's all. This is not even an MVP. It doesn't demonstrate what's possible. You can do markdown. You can do page rendering. You can set all of that. Each one of these posts is a component, or it's a module basically, and you can make them, if you implement the necessary sort of code, I guess, you can make. Okay, why is this not working? Come on, app. We're in a live demo here. Okay, so I'm trying to get my new post to show up, but it's not doing it for some reason. No, this should work. Okay, whatever. What was I saying? I was saying, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was saying how it's possible to create, a post could define everything about itself. It could define, I want a table with 2 rows and 3 columns, and I want a text input in this one, and when I click the submit button, then I want to broadcast a custom transaction out to the network, which would then allow for things like form submission and sort of it would allow for things like form submission. You can enter text into something like a username or password field, or no, you wouldn't do that. You'd enter text into something like a order processing form, and then it would broadcast a specialized transaction. And you could even encrypt it to the seller's private key. Like, let's say you're building an auction site with this. Oh, there it finally goes. Yep, there's the 504 errors for all the failed attempts I did at doing IPFS content. Basically, what this allows for is the next version of HTTP if you're able to implement it. And really, the reason why I'm doing this stream is because I don't necessarily have the time to implement all this. But if it gets done, you can build. Like, imagine if I go make a post, right, and I define background color of whatever, and I define, I want links to this, and I want this to show up in rows, and I want there to be a text field here that when you submit it, you can write all of that into a post, and then when that gets submitted to the network, then you can create, and you can link to other people's posts in your post. So really, you can do everything you can do with HTTP. You can do, if you define the protocol for it, and you have an app that supports it, you can do live streaming video, because you can say, you can tell your clients, here's the IPFS, or no, you'd say basically, here's an address, here's a Bitcoin address where you can keep refreshing, and every 15 seconds I'm going to post a new blob of content on IPFS, and then it downloads the content and uses it for to play chunks of video in a video player for live streaming video. You can do chat using encrypted, you can encrypt everything using the BitcoinCash private keys. You can encrypt everything using a group key that you set up by defining a protocol for coordination between those parties. You can do a lot of things here that really people don't realize, because yes, you can do text posts, but if you build an app that implements this protocol, basically, or it just has to implement a protocol in a distributed system, you can really do a lot more than people realize. So let's see. So I should go into a little bit, I guess, how how everything works on a more technical level. How I'm able to use block explorers instead of, because there's the whole thing about, well, how do you sort out what content, how do you sort out all of the transactions which implement my protocol versus just any other random transaction. And the way that I do that is I use a central address, where basically any post that or any transaction that claims to implement my protocol can actually do so without. So they broadcast one like dust limit sized output, so like 540 satoshis, out to the central address, and then when I query for everything, I just query the block the block explorer. Hey, what transactions have outputs which are directed at the central address? And then you can also do things like, if you don't want to post to the central address, you post to the parent. So like, if I want to make a reply, if Alice wants to make a reply to Bob's post, then what she does is she creates a transaction which implements which has an output to Alice's public address, and then to Bob's public address, and then basically that creates a parent-child relationship between the transaction that she created and Bob's profile, and to reference a specific transaction identifier as defined by, I'm not going to try to find it. Basically, it's going to allow for, you can query the block explorer for Bob's address then and get any transactions that anybody has ever sent as a reply to his address, and using that you can. I really wish this would work, because there's another profile on here. Because I have two profiles. I'm not going to try to debug this, but maybe it works on here, 1 second. Because I really would like to get this working. Essentially, oh yeah, let's log in on the live stream. Essentially what I'm able to do is query block explorers for the transactions relating to specific addresses, and then use that information to create social graphs and hierarchical data structures, and things like that. And the reason why it's still secure is because you're querying, so your client independently establishes credibility for each block explorer based on how reliably it provides information. So that's going to incentivize block explorers to remain well connected, which obviously they already are. And if you're querying, Blockdozer and blockexplorer.com, and Blockdozer doesn't reply, Blockdozer doesn't reply with one transaction that blockexplorer.com does, your client can then independently say, okay, well, that's 1 point away from Blockdozer, and to not select them as often in the future for things. So it queries at least 2, and based on that and you can change that, obviously. This is all going to be configurable. This is a very early, obviously, this is a very early demo of what's possible, but basically, relaying text over the Bitcoin Cash network is pretty trivial. You can use opreturn for it. Relaying IPFS hashes, you put the hash in and then you get it hosted somewhere, and then you relay, but relaying actual meaningful things like web pages, basically, where you have a heading and a subheading and a link and a text field and and all these things, which doing all of that is possible. It's just not widely, or it's just not implemented yet. So the reason why I'm doing this is to sort of spread awareness about what's possible and potentially get some developers to help out a little bit, because I don't have the time needed to really go through and do all of this. I've been working on this for several months, and I've gotten this far, but heck, my HTML doesn't even do what it's supposed to. So if there is another reason why I'm doing this is just to measure sort of community, I guess, interest level in it. Because if nobody cares about doing this whole HTTP on top of BCH and IPFS thing, then obviously I'd like to know, so I don't spend a whole bunch of time building it. So if there's here, let's see. So if there's any people that have any questions about any of this, let me know, and I'd be happy to try to answer. But it really doesn't seem like many people are even watching, even though I put this stream up on like literally every BCH related channel I could find, except for Telegram, I guess. Really, this is kind of to establish what people want to see, and how I can do that, or how I can sort of get the resources I need to implement what people want implemented. Like, here's an example. I put a link in a post, right? Now imagine, instead of linking to HTTP, okay, this post has a TXID, right? And this post up here has a TXID. Imagine if I were able to link, basically use this as saying, okay, here's a link to this TXID. Now when you click on this link, you get this post. And now it takes you, I think this should work. Now it takes you here. Now you can see that post. Now you've created a successful link. Now imagine that this post up here, okay, it shows it in a different order. There is ordering things which I do have solutions for, where you're able to order by timestamp, and I also have name resolution schemes where you can sort of establish what name, like UTXO Ninja, for example, maps to my Bitcoin address, and things like that. You can, all of that's possible. But essentially, like, imagine this post up here was a web page, because you would literally just do, if you wanted to make a web page, just HTML. So just imagine this is HTML and it's being rendered as a web page, and this is and that one that contained a link to this post, basically referencing that TXID. In that instance, you'd be able to basically link to a web page on a distributed platform, because given a TXID, you ask any block explorer, it's going to give it to you, and it's the block explorer can't lie about the TXID because, you know, the client's just going to verify the hash. It's literally a hash of the transaction, so there's no room for the block explorer to lie there. Now, as far as concerns about how secure this is, you have what the block explorer can lie about is what transactions exist for a given address. And I think I've kind of covered this a little bit, but basically each block explorer has a credibility rating, and if it fails to provide the most recent transactions for given addresses, the client establishes that its credibility, and it does this independently, the client independently establishes that its credibility is poor and thus doesn't use it. So basically, if a block explorer wants to lie about transactions, it won't be able to do so because of the fact that it just won't get used. It'll be able to do it at first, but you would need, you know, at first, before any credibility for anything is established, you're going to need to sort of, before any credibility for anything ever is established, the client is always going to ask multiple explorers until it sort of learns, you know, who's the honest people, so to speak. And then after that, it'll be able to, you know, you have to trust that nobody tampered with your local storage in your browser, but that if you have problems with that, you have bigger problems. So that's sort of the primary idea that I'm going for here, is that building this decentralized content platform, you know, people can put, you know, you could embed, imagine you have a video, right? And then now I make a post and I basically say, you know, here's some random text, and then below that text embed this video, and then below that, you know, embed whatever is at this TXID, and then below that, you know, here's some other text, and then embed an image. People are going to be able to do that, and it's going to be able to link together all of this content in a relational way, such that you're able to create fully interactive, eventually you're going to be able to create fully interactive web pages on top of BCH. And then beyond that, sort of name resolution, basically you have different schemes. The client can pick whichever scheme it wants to use, and obviously the end user isn't going to see any of this, but eventually people are going to converge on a de facto sort of name resolution standard, whether it be, you know, first come first serve, so if I claim a name first then it's mine, or maybe you can go sort of the way of like the library model, where you have people that can back names and back content in that way. Things of that nature are possible. You can also do, you know, basically there's going to be a competitive market for effective domain name resolution and user resolution schemes, where you can resolve from name to address, and obviously from address to name. And then when you have that done, what you can do is you can start assigning names to specific TXIDs from your address, and you can say this TXID's name is whatever, and then, like, let's say, you know, this TXID's name is Google. If you type Google into the address bar of a yet-to-be-built decentralized web browser, it's going to go find whatever's at that TXID, and it's going to display it on the page as if it were, I mean, you know, and it's a website, where you can then use, you know, and I don't know about building Google, there'd be really no point, but something like, you know, a Patreon or an eBay on top of the BCH blockchain and IPFS. So that's really the end goal, is being able to create and distribute content in a censorship-resistant way on top of these platforms. People just don't realize what's possible, is my entire point. And, you know, I've created this thing where we have videos now, but you can just as easily do a text field and then basically say, you know, when I submit, you know, and have like basically even like JavaScript, although you'd have to put some limitations on it, you know, like when this text field is submitted, then broadcast this transaction after first, you know, consulting with the user, you know. So things like that are possible. You can do paid content. You can do so like let's say you want to charge for a video. Currently, it's required that that both participants in something like an atomic swap or a payment stream, I guess, need to be online for it to work. But I think that advancements in that technology will eventually allow for only one party to be online, and I think that that's going to allow for a lot more growth in sort of ability, or the ability of users to, I guess, like if someone posts a piece of content and they says, they said this content should cost $15 or whatever. When you should be able to, eventually people are going to be able to trustlessly say, if I pay $15 for this content, I will receive, the private key or whatever, not the decryption key to unlock it, things like that. So I think all of that's possible, and I think once the technology gets more developed, I think it's gonna happen. So here, I'm gonna read through the chat real quick. Okay, so we have one person in the chat. I did put it on Reddit 3 times. I put a thing on Reddit basically a couple days ago saying, hey, this is what my live stream is, this is what it's all about, and whatever. I put a thing yesterday saying, basically, here's what I've done as far as putting videos on the blockchain, and then today I basically put a thing saying, hey, I'm live. So, I don't know. There are... Oh, we got 10 people watching, and I guess I do have some people. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'm trying to gauge sort of community interest in this. But yeah, it can render anything. It can render any web page, if you let it. And one problem I have with HTML is that it's really flexible, and that sounds good, but there's far too much customization, in my opinion, with HTML. Because like you can do things like, background, like audio and just like self-playing audio that advertises things and things like that, which really shouldn't exist. So I think creating a more extensible but still more standard way of doing something like a video player, an audio player, accessible photos, things like that, would be beneficial. So I think that the extension of this protocol will allow for a lot of that stuff, news articles, obviously linking, just basic hyperlinks I haven't even gotten around to yet. It's very simple, it's just something that I haven't done yet, like, things like that, I know are possible. It's just, I don't have the time or the resources to build it on my own, and I don't know where to find the people that do, so thus the predicament that I'm in. Like it took me 30 minutes or like 10 minutes to build this thing, little tiny things where it says how many days instead of just like the timestamp. And then I'm going to have to build a way of queuing up all these posts, sorting them into the right, time order, making sure all the trees of replies get rendered correctly. The little tiny things that need to be built, just, I don't have the time for. So if this project is interesting to anybody, the code is out on the internet. The code is up on GitHub. The code is available, and if people want to use it, then, please do. Please submit a pull request. Message me. But it doesn't seem like there's many people who are interested in having this done, as far as what I've been able to gather. and I don't necessarily have the time to work on it, so, you know. If people, here, let me, okay, we're getting messages, okay. Okay, yeah, we can play the video. Messages on Discord. I have not been tracking all of the platforms. I'm just reading through the chats. I haven't been paying too much attention to that. It's a bit difficult for me, but I will do that. Yeah, sure, I'll play the video. It's just it's like a stock clip. I have no idea what it is. I mean, this is totally fair use, but I don't want to get my stream, you know, I don't want to get my stream flagged or anything like that. You gotta be careful nowadays. Hopefully, in the next 6 months, if this gets built, we can do live streaming on IPFS and BCH, and everything will be amazing. You know, with obviously tipping and all that stuff integrated. That would be cool, but here, let me go on. Here, one sec. I'm still getting. Yeah, I'm gonna take a minute to read through the. Okay, we have. So if we don't want to rely on block explorers, we can use Electron. Oh yeah, we can use. Okay, I will check into that. The reason why I was relying on block explorers is because there's a lot of them. Yeah, I still haven't read most of that. Okay, so the let's see, the central address is a potential revenue source. Right now, it's only used for querying from block explorers. The reason why I'm relying on block explorers is because of sort of the. Oops, I'm on the wrong window. Is because there's so many of them, and because I can query them, you know, easily using an already established, I guess, API rather than having to build out my own infrastructure. And then, just give me 1 second here. Okay, so timeline sorting is in the works, but as far as publishing videos, you can already go here and upload, and I wish I could just say it just works, but it doesn't. I have a publication server that just adds it to IPFS right now. I'm trying to get an incentive system set up to where you can just pay the, you know, the IPFS node a couple cents or whatever it would be to put it up on IPFS, and then once that's done, you know, it'll be able to be fairly you know, it'll be able to be fairly seamless once we have everything squared away with getting the server built. The server is probably the weakest link because it allows for, basically what it does is it takes the content and hosts it on IPFS for you in exchange for, right now in exchange for nothing, but later in exchange for a fee. And content viewership is completely decentralized, but having centralized starting points, because you know when you see something on IPFS, other people are going to copy it and whatever, and it's going to be out there. But having those centralized starting points is sort of the main bottleneck. You know, I'm still trying to catch up on reading the messages, but oops, I keep doing that wrong. Okay. Okay, was the video cached? I think so. I mean, it's not cached on my end. It's on the end of, well, it does seem like it's cached. It might be. It might be. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not sure whether the video is cached. Okay, let's see. I think it would be beneficial to simplify the UX and promote it. I'm just, okay, let's see. Simplifying the UX would be good. So posting a video, the first time I had to manually do a bunch of stuff. It's all automatable, it's just a matter of getting the code right, and I haven't had the time to automate all of it. So what I did is I literally went into Notepad and I said, content type, video, and I said, okay, this is all in a JSON object. So how it works is you can have content type video or image or text or audio or what have you, and then the viewer will parse that and use it to render whatever, to create whatever HTML it needs to create in order to make it work. And then I basically said title, and then I had hash, and then this is the actual MP4 file, the IPFS thing. And then basically what I did is I took this and I stuck it into a text file, added the text file to IPFS, added the actual MP4s, added the MP4 to IPFS, so this whole, whatever this hash is to, added that to IPFS, and then I added, now both of them are IPFS. Then I stuck the hash of this, which is on IPFS, into a Bitcoin Cash transaction, broadcasted the transaction out to the network, and then it was able to be parsed and downloaded and accessed by the client. So reading content is far easier than writing content, but it all can be automated, and it all is to some extent. I mean, the code for doing the JSON object and everything, that's already done. It's just, it takes whatever's in here as a title, and then it uploads it. I can do a text post as a demo, though. We'll see if we get any new viewers from people who happen to be looking at op returns on the blockchain. So if there's any, oh yeah, I have to do this. Enable transaction broadcasts. Okay, let's see if we can get this to send. And I'll link my private key to the stream. Okay, so if anybody is on the blockchain, then maybe they'll. Okay, that post is somewhere, or maybe it's just not on that Block Explorer yet, because it publishes to 3 Block Explorers, and then yeah, here it is. So if anybody's on the, so yeah, we have that done. Let's see. this. So the interactive system. Yes, the server fee would be paid in BCH, and it would be optional. The user could also run their own IPFS node if they're like a big name content creator and just seed everything, and it would work. They wouldn't have to pay a fee. The fee is only, it would be completely optional, just like the, I guess the way that Bitcoin transactions were supposed to work, until, anyways, fee would be optional, yeah. All the interactive site stuff, that's way down the road, yeah, I agree. We want to get this out here as soon as possible, but, I mean, I just, you know, I'm going to be going, I mean, this is sort of, I guess unrelated because it's just personal stuff, but I'm going to be going to college in a month, and I don't have the time to work on this, so if there's other people that do, then that's kind of where I'm going with this. Okay, let's see. There will be no ads in my, well, so the current model that I have, because you're saying it could be free for the user, content publishers can get rewarded by doing tipping, and also you can't do trustless paywalls with this, but you can do honorary paywalls. So you can say, like, I would like you to pay $15 to get this content, or what, you know, 15 cents or whatever it is. And then it'll show up, unless somebody's using like a pirated or like a modified version that doesn't honor the request for being paid, which people will. You know, it's piracy, it's a problem, it'll exist no matter how we go about this. People are going to be able to be rewarded by getting, you know, people are going to remunerate them for their content, is kind of the model that I was going for. I don't like doing ads because ads suck, but if content creators can make enough money from sort of doing things and getting rewarded, you know, on the basically through the BCH, you know, blockchain, then what the heck? Oh, okay. That image there is just still loading. I got distracted. If content creators can be rewarded through the BCH blockchain itself, we may not need to involve advertisers at all, because it's really just another middleman who's gonna you know, take money from the content creators. But you know, that's an option, using ad revenue for paying the servers. And you know, honestly, I think it's going to operate similarly to like the Tor network. No one's getting paid to run the Tor network, but there's 7,000 nodes on it. So if somebody runs, if at least one publication node exists, and at least a couple IPFS nodes, then this is going to work. And the more people that request, yeah, this is, and a cool thing about IPFS, the more people that request something, the more distributed it's going to get, and the more nodes that are going to know about it. So, I mean, as I understand at least, like if I request something through gateway.ipfs.io, and then somebody else requests it through ipfs.work, and whatever, all these IPFS endpoints, eventually that content is going to be everywhere, and it's going to create really fast load times because the servers are just going to have it cached all the time. I guess like this video, although maybe this is cached client-side, I'd have to check. And then, here, I'll open up an Internet Explorer. I uninstalled Internet Explorer. So I don't know if it's cached client-side or not. But basically, the servers are going to cache everything, and that's going to create a way for people to, I guess, access things in a fast way. Let's see, what is the other... I'm kind of just going through these questions. Okay, let's see. What's the video cache? Already seen that one. Yeah, I completely agree. Imaginary username, I completely agree. As long as anybody can host it, then yeah, it's completely that can wait, but I just like to roll out some sort of working system eventually. And I think that would be a good sort of 0.1 or 1.0 or what have you milestone, is having something that people can actually use for getting videos up. Every action is written on chain. Every like and, well, if you like something, you tip it, and however much you tip it or like it, based on however much you tip, basically, is how that works right now. Users can follow people off-chain, and it just stores it in their local storage. So, like, if I wanted to follow somebody, and I don't have any of this built yet, but if I wanted to follow somebody or subscribe to their channel, I had two options. I can do it on-chain, and that way if I log in on my computer or my phone or wherever, it'll always be there. Or I can do it off-chain, and it'll just store it in local storage, and then whenever I open up that same browser, or that same app, like if I do a mobile app, that same app or that same browser, then my subscription will still be there because it's just in local storage. And an added benefit to doing that is also privacy. You don't have to disclose who you're following if you're just doing it in local storage. And potentially you can sync that across your devices if you're tech savvy, or however that, we could make a way for normal users to just sync that easily, like maybe you have a QR code you scan, or however it would work. So there's two ways of following people, or subscribing, I guess, on-chain and off-chain. Both have their advantages. But every sort of public action, like if you want to reply to someone, that's definitely going to be an on-chain action. And that will cost users money, but I really think that we can set up an incentive structure, and that kind of might, here, I'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm going to try to get through the rest of these. Let's see. Reputation system. If I get investments or donations, it would, because I'd be able to, while I can't work on this as much as I would love to, I'm going to be able to fund people based on how many donations I receive. And if you want to like invest, I don't have this is literally just a thing on GitHub. It's not a company or whatever, but yeah, it's gonna let me do graphics. It's gonna let me pay for graphics designers, video, promotions, I would advertise the platform a bit, maybe targeted directly at people who've been banned from Twitter, cough cough, Alex Jones, and basically promote the platform, get the word out, get developer attention. That's kind of my goal here. So, what was I saying earlier? Yeah, that reputation system and all that stuff, it can be built very easily. It's just, I mean, not very easily, but it can be built, and it's quite possible. We don't need any new opcodes, and I also don't think we need any central servers if we can do everything with the block explorers that we already have. We really won't need any of that stuff to do this. So, yeah, all that stuff can be built later once we have the sort of the I guess MVP. Although this is, completely an open source project, so anybody can commit anything they want. Not that I've gotten any things on GitHub, but it is all open source, and that all can be built later. Yeah, content creators are going to do, the content creators are going to do in-video ads. They're going to do whatever, and they're going to have their own incentives and act in their own self-interest. But I think that their self-interest will be to utilize something like this platform because of the fact that it eliminates any sort of, censorship, but it also eliminates the ability for third parties to take away the revenue that they've earned. So I think it'll be a more efficient way for them to publish content. For that reason, they're going to be able to publish whatever they want. That's actually really good idea, backing up the local storage occasionally, depending on browser support and whether users are willing to pay for their stuff to be backed up. Because while this is going to be great adoption for BCH, it's also going to create a lot of user headaches if they have to acquire BCH. So what I'm thinking is, if we have people that earn, 1+ Bitcoin Cash per day, or however much it is, then we can literally create a sort of faucet where we can pop up a thing on their screen saying, hey, if you donate 1% of your earnings, then you'd be able to pay for an average of 5,700 users to join, new users to join the platform and make their first 10 actions, or whatever it would be. And those funds could be distributed to new users, rather than having to force them to, enter their credit card and take a picture of their passport and upload it to whoever to buy crypto. They can just use our faucet and it would all be internal. And it wouldn't even be a money transmitter, because it would be done, or it would at least in theory try to be done in a completely decentralized way. But I think that there's a lot of unexplored options that I think the BCH community could benefit from. For example, just thinking outside the box with things like this, how can we make something really beneficial and really useful for a lot of people? So that could be... So the reason why I wouldn't do something like colored coins or tokens is because, really Bitcoin Cash is money, or it's I guess the purest form of money there is, and creating something, tokenization is cool if people want to do it, but there has to be a really good reason to do it, and I don't see that reason here when you can just send money. It's the purest form of value. I wouldn't want to have to create, and manage whatever Tokita thing, or worry about whether op group gets merged, which everyone has their own opinions about that, and whatever. It's just, I'd rather use BCH. It's just simpler for the short term at least. And as far as like skins or whatever, anybody can set their profile picture. That's not implemented yet, but there's so many things that aren't implemented yet. Anybody's going to be able to do all that stuff, channel art and all that. Having, if you're talking about, Counter-Strike, I don't know anything about, I don't think that's very plausible, but if people want to do it, then, anybody can build whatever they want, it's a permissionless world, and I'd be willing, I'd be willing to support that. And I guess that does kind of lead into another thing I'd like to discuss, is that eventually I want to have competing implementations of this. I want to have an app that does a video player, like YouTube, and I want to have an app that does Reddit, sort of thing, and I want to have, maybe with multimedia like this. This is kind of like the Reddit with multimedia thing, I guess. And then I want to have like a news news sort of app, I guess, and maybe a blogging one, and a web browser, you know, that has all the interactive stuff. That's down the road, but having competing implementations, guess what? They're all in the same network, they're all in the same protocol, and they would all be incentivized to work together whenever possible. So if you have a video that's published on the video player, you know, that can still be accessed through something like the I guess blogging thing or whatever. You know, you follow the YouTube channel as a blog, as a you know, as a publisher on your blogging app, right? And then whenever they post something, you just see it as a video, and they're incentivized to work together in that way and to build a really compatible ecosystem of services. And yes, there's going to be competition, but if all of the competition is on the front end, and how you can innovate on top of the protocol, if the same protocol is being used between applications, it's sort of like when trying to think of X.25 or whatever. I really don't know too much about this, but it's sort of like when X.25 decided to stop fighting with the TCP/IP stack, because they realized, you know, all the potential was on top of TCP/IP. When people stop trying to build new protocols, and they have a protocol that works, which I really did try to support the Memo protocol, but it just didn't work because they're so non-standard, like with multiple push data operations for things, and you know, I digress there a little bit, but having a standard protocol, people are incentivized to build and innovate on top of it. And like, let's say one front end adds a new thing and everybody likes it, all the other front ends are going to be incentivized to support their addition to the protocol because everybody likes it, and they're going to need to compete to stay relevant. And it's just going to be, you know, what new things are added and how do they innovate and do people like them? And it's going to be this sort of, I guess it's going to incentivize a lot of new innovations on top of a decentralized protocol, which I think is pretty powerful. Let's see. Oh yeah, it would be free for a while in the beginning. It's kind of like in I just read your let's see. Yeah, it will be free for a while, just like in 2009 with the Bitcoin transactions, I guess. Um, this really does. It's interesting the dynamics at play here, because this does go back to like the early 90s when, well, no, not really, but you know, there's these very basic things like, how do you put a button? You know, what's going to be the code for putting a button into something? And there's so many different implementations of doing it, and they're all competing, and eventually you find the best one. And you know, the best one is just like the button tag. But it really is going to create, I think, a lot of new innovation if it does take off. Here, let me try to scroll. So that is true that people do find it easier to send or spend those sort of things. The front end can call BCH, Bitcoin Cash. They can call it whatever they want. You could have one front end that calls it tokens and another one that calls it, you know, diamonds or whatever you want to. The front end, you know, it's just like in with different languages. There's different names and terms and words for the same thing, but the reality is that diamonds or gems or whatever it is, those represent value. So the ability to transmit value is important. And I think that having that ability, you the front ends are going to do what they want. The front ends are going to compete to build the best experience for the user, and the front ends are going to, if people want their thing to be called diamonds or whatever, then that's what it's going to be called, because people value that, and they're going to compete in whatever way they can to, the different front ends. They're going to innovate in whatever way they can. Like, let's say one front end wants a donation button, and the other front end, wants like and then the other one's like, okay, people like the donation button, so I'll add it. And then the first one's like, let's add a recurring tip button that automatically sends money every week. Then the other one, they're just going to be competing for users and competing for their specific implementation, potentially because maybe they integrate their own crypto payment processor and make money, or because they do X, Y, or Z. But when we have competing implementations, that really allows for decentralization to take effect and to add its benefits to the protocol. I really think that's where things are going to end up if this gets built, which I really hope it does. Obviously. Now, as of right now, what I have is, because I did have working at one point where you can upload a video here. Tempted to try it. Here, 1 second. I might try to demonstrate uploading a video. Okay, so this is, it's down. So basically I have a central, I have a central endpoint, like the Unite endpoint, which publishes content, and there's going to be multiple endpoints that do this. And that's literally 50 lines of code right now, if that. It doesn't validate anything. And when that's done, then you'll be able to upload content from this, which is, I think that would be a good first step. But I just need developers, and I need people who are going to be able to help build this, and that's kind of why I'm doing the stream. But I will probably end it here unless anybody has any further questions. There were some good questions, and there was some good insight, with encrypting everything in local backing up the local storage to IPFS. That was a good suggestion. Thank you for that. Imaginary username. But yeah, I'll probably end the stream here. If people want to donate, they can. It's much appreciated. I'm going to try to get some developers who are able to build this in React instead of jQuery, because I literally built everything in jQuery. Don't ask why, I don't know. Like, if I want to render something, literally I render it like that. So, little things like that, the code base isn't very clean. I might rewrite it from scratch. I mean, not from scratch, but refactor a whole bunch of it at least, to be a lot better. But yeah, I just realized people can't see. There we go. Yeah, I was saying basically that I was rendering everything like this, which is absolutely terrible. The design is terrible for something like this. But yeah, the point is, I could use help with getting developers, and especially graphics people on board, video editors, animators, things like that, to create promotional content, advertisers, people could either donate and I could purchase ads, or they could just go advertise, word of mouth to their friends. That would also be beneficial. I just need to get this project some exposure before I don't have any time to work on it whatsoever, because I'm going to be going off to college in the fall, and I don't have the time needed to give this project, and I know it deserves, this project is deserving of people's time and energy, and I really think it's going to go places. It's just a matter of getting it built. So if people want to help out, it'd be much appreciated, and if you can't, then you could help out by just sharing it with anybody who you know, who might be interested in this sort of thing. But I think I'll check the chat one last time. Let's see. How would you build upvotes or downvotes into this? So building upvotes and downvotes is actually pretty simple. You just broadcast. So you have a post, right? And that post has a TXID, and you're seeing that post on your screen, and you want to upvote it or downvote it. So you broadcast a post basically to the network, and essentially, and you're not actually saying this because the protocol has to define things, but you're basically saying, I hereby downvote this post that has this TXID, right? And you can also attach a value in money to that. You can say, I am provably burning this amount of money to downvote this post because I don't like it. So, and that says something, and people can look at that on the blockchain, and they can read it however they want. So if people want to sort by most upvoted, then they'll check how many upvotes or most number of people upvoted, or also most money spent on upvotes. So like if somebody spent 1 BCH on upvoting something, then that would say a lot. But if 100,000 people spent 1,000 satoshis upvoting or something, then that would also say a lot. So people can interpret that client side however they want. It's just transactions. Everything is just transactions and saying stuff, and then the client just interpreting that protocol however the client feels that it can. And it's just a little trickery with block explorers, and then you have suddenly a completely distributed network that anybody can access in a fairly trustless way. And I really hope that's where this goes, is that a lot of people can make use of this instead of just people that know HTML. Like I believe someone earlier said, there will need to be a lot of optimization and UX improvement and development that doesn't exist yet, and implementation that doesn't exist yet. And I've been working on this for 3 months just as best as I can, and it's gotten pretty far, if I do say so, but it's not gotten to a point where it's even usable yet. So I'm just trying to build things and do the best that I can. So if anybody would like to send a Git pull request, that would be much appreciated. If anybody would like to advertise it to their friends, that would be really appreciated. Post a thing on Reddit. If we can get a thing where we can link to things, like if we can basically put a link, like people go on Memo and they write something and then they post a link on Reddit, if we can link to Unite.cash / post $TXID, I don't if we can get to the point where we can link to things and have ordinary people click on that link and be like, ooh, what's this? That's going to be really beneficial for adoption. So that's kind of where I'm going next. Is first I want to get rid of the whole you must log in order to access the demo thing, and then once that's done, I want to get linking to content, because that's going to help with adoption. So if people want to help out with that, GitHub pull requests are much appreciated, and any other form of contribution that you guys can make is also much appreciated. But let's see. Let me read through what people have been saying in the chat. Okay, let me see here. Thank you for your donation. Uname, I haven't checked. And for the nth time, if you manage to get a upload video and view product. Yeah, I really do agree. I think yeah, to write a spec. I think we'll be able to get that done. I mean, the spec isn't, you know, I'll pull an Andrew Stone and say, my spec is in the code. It's in JavaScript. I didn't write it in English. I will need to write a spec, and that's gonna be done. And seriously, I'll do it in English. I'll write a .md file or whatever it is, and get that done. But you know, I think that other people can help with doing that also. And I will try my hardest to get this into a functional state and have a more prepared demo for the next stream, whenever that may be. And hopefully before I leave, I'll have a working product. But thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for the contributions and for the suggestions. It's been really insightful, and I will hopefully see everybody around in the Bitcoin community. Send me a message on Reddit or Discord or wherever. Maybe I'll check my Discord. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. It's been great, and I hope to get this thing built.